Math 8 TCAP Subpart 2, Sample Question. The table contains equivalent ratios between x and y. Find the missing value of x. If you take the ratio 18 divided by 3, that gives you 6. If you continue that pattern, you will have the same ratio as 6. So 48 divided by what gives us 6? And that'll be 8, because 8 times 6 gives us 48. Number 10, the graph displays a linear function. Write the equation of the linear function in the form of y equals mx plus b. One thing that I recommend is go ahead and write the equation down on your answer document, and then we'll go back and erase the slope and the y-intercept once we have it. What I also want you to notice is this goes through the origin. This is a proportional linear relationship, and your b, your y-intercept, is 0. So we can erase this b. We can put plus 0 or leave it out altogether. Your slope, if we find another point where it crosses in the corner of these squares, you're going to notice that you're going to go down 2 units for your slope, and you're going to go to the right 3 units. Remember, slope is rise over run, so for my rise, I'm going down 2 units and to the right 3 units. And the reason I want you to write that equation is so that we won't forget the x in the equation. It's very important. So we could have nothing out here, or we could leave it with plus 0. Number 11, Kara plays a certain number of notes in a set amount of time on the piano. She rests for a period, then plays fewer notes in the same amount of time it took her to play the first set of notes. Which graph could be used to represent the situation? I think the easiest thing to identify is that she's resting for a period. In C, there's no indication that there's a rest, nor is there an indication for D, so we could go ahead and mark those out. The second thing that we can notice is it says she plays fewer notes that it took her to play the first set. So in the first set, she's going faster, but in the second set, she's going slower. So in B, we can see that the final set, we have a flatter line, which indicates going slower. And at the beginning, we have a steeper line, which indicates going faster. And then we also have this rest period. Points D and E are graphed on the coordinate plane. What is the distance between these 2 points? What I need you to know is that we have a diagonal here. Anytime that we have a diagonal and we're trying to find the distance of the diagonal, we're going to use the Pythagorean Theorem. So create a right triangle from this diagonal, and we're not going to use the typical a squared plus b squared equals c squared. What's easy to memorize is if I'm trying to find my hypotenuse, which is the diagonal, I'm going to take the square root of the leg raised to the second power plus the other leg raised to the second power. So here, this leg is 2 units. This leg is 3 units long. And to use this formula, I'm going to have 2 to the second power plus 3 to the second power. This is also, if you look at your answer choices, we have some square root symbols. If we plug all this in our calculator, we get something like 3.6. We don't have that answer choice. We're looking for the exact distance. It doesn't say that we're approximating. So if we backtrack and go back and do what's underneath the radical, 2 to the second power is 4, 3 to the second power is 9, and 4 plus 9 gives us 13. So what we have here is the square root of 13 as our answer. You could also test this, take the square root of 13, and it'll get back to your 3.6 approximation. In the spinner shown, the probability of the red is 1/2. The probability of the spinning either blue or yellow is 1/4. The spinner will be spun twice. The probability that the resulting of this first spin will be red. They give us the probability of red. If you notice in this spinner, red is 1/2. The second spin will be blue, which is 1/4, and it says that. All we have to do is multiply these fractions to give us 1/8. That's the probability. Number 14. An ice cream cone is 12 centimeters tall and has a radius of 4 centimeters. Which measure is closest to volume in cubic centimeters of the ice cream cone? This is a formula we have to have memorized. Volume of a cone is 1/3 times pi times r squared times h. The radius is 4. So we're going to put 4 in for the radius and raise it to the second power. The height is 12. Plug all this in your calculator. I recommend using parentheses for your fraction. And you should get 201.1 as your volume. Number 15, the typing rate for Marcia is shown in the graph. The typing rate for Clay is shown in the table. Based on the information, which statement is true? If you look at these answer choices, they're all asking about the rate. Remember, rate is another word for slope. Also, notice this problem. They go through the origin. When they go through the origin, your slope can be y divided by x. And this is only if it's a proportional that goes through the origin. If you notice, this dot right here is exactly in the corner of the square, and we can do 80 divided by 5. 80 divided by 5 gives us 16 words per minute. So Marcia is typing 16 words per minute. Clay, it's also a proportional relationship, so we could take any of these values and divide y divided by x. We could do 54 divided by 3, 90 divided by 5, and you get 14. Nope, I'm sorry. You actually get 18 words per minute. So Clay is actually typing 2 words per minute than Marcia. What is the volume in cubic inches of a sphere that is 18 inches in diameter? So here's another formula that we have to get memorized for the sphere. Volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. They want the radius, not the diameter. So the radius is half of your diameter, which is 9. Plug it into your formula, 4/3 times pi times 9 to the 3rd power. Plug it into your calculator, and we will get somewhere about 3,053. Doesn't tell us where to round, so somewhere close to that answer. Number 17. For $1,200, a business can post an advertisement for 30 days. For $1,500, the advertisement will be posted for 60 days. The relationship comparing cost to days is linear. Which function can be used to model this relationship between the cost, y, and the number of days, x, that is advertised, will be posted? Notice your answer choices are in slope-intercept form. Think about making a table of your x values and your y values. It says that your x values are days, so we start out with 30 days. Your y value is your cost, so for 30 days, we have a cost of $1,200. 60 days, we have a cost of $1,500. We could find the b by working backwards. You can see how the x's are increasing by 30. So if we go backwards 30, that would give us our starting point, our y-intercept. And you can see here that you are increasing by 300. If I go back 300, that would be 900. 900 would be my starting point. You can also calculate your rate. Like I said, we are increasing by 300 on the y's, increasing by 30 on the x's. Your slope is your y divided by your x, which would be 300 divided by 30. Reduce that fraction. 30 divided by 3 would give me a rate or a slope of 10. Number 18, which equation represents a linear function? Throughout the year, we talked about 3 types of functions. Correction, we only talked about one type of linear function, making sure that we were understanding that slope-intercept form is our linear function. And that x needed to be the first power. If we had x to the first power, we had a linear function. If I clean up A and do the distributive property, x times 2 gives me 2x. X times negative 3x actually gives me negative 3x squared. What we have to remember is that x times x gives us x squared, and we don't want that x squared. We want x to the first power so that it's linear. So we can't have A. B, if we do the distributive property, we have 1/2 x minus 1.5, which would be half of 3, minus 2x. So we can clean this up as 1/2 x and negative 2x. Combine those. Of course, you can use your calculator. You've got negative 1.5x minus 1.5. So they're throwing you off with some decimals and fractions here, but this in fact is in slope-intercept form. We have that x to the first power. It can't be b if you notice x is to the second power. And then d, x times x gives you that x squared, so we can't have that.